Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So yeah, some significant news in the world of boxing broke last night. I say significant, but ultimately not surprising. Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested in Florida on the suspicion of domestic violence. As of right now, according to the reports at least, he is now awaiting a bond hearing on the alleged charges. And bear in mind, this is less than 2 weeks before his upcoming fight with Hector Garcia. Of course, this fight was going to go down on the 7th of January, and it was going to take place on Showtime pay-per-view. But yeah, I'd assume now that this fight is at risk of being cancelled. And honestly, if Showtime are consistent, they will cancel this fight. Because I've seen a few, I never thought of this, but I've seen a few people on Twitter make this comparison. If you recall, December last year, Gervonta Davis was supposed to fight Rolly Romero on pay-per-view. However, Rolly Romero was pulled out of that fight due to unfounded allegations of sexual assault. Of course, they were proven to be false, and that fight eventually got rescheduled for summer of 2022. Obviously, last December, Isaac Cruz replaced Rolly Romero. So yeah, in essence, Rolly Romero was pulled out of that fight due to a couple of allegations that were made public on Twitter. That's why he was pulled out of that fight. Here we have Tank Davis getting he's been arrested, not for the first time. Bear in mind, he's got a pending case in February for hit and run as well. But here we have Tank Davis arrested once again for a serious and cowardly crime. Okay, and bear in mind, we've seen Tank Davis basically manhandle some female on camera before at the basketball game that went all over Twitter a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of trouble surrounding Tank Davis. There has been for a long time now. And again, this is a guy who's got a pending legal case outside of this for February. So will Showtime treat Tank Davis the same way they treated Rolly Romero? Bear in mind, Rolly Romero was never arrested. Bear that in mind. So are Showtime going to cancel this fight? If not, then you have to really question the validity of Tank Davis versus Rolly Romero. Just think about it. I'm sure there's going to be some NPC racking their brain. Oh, what's this guy talking about? You'll get there. You'll get there. Okay? So that's going to be interesting to see Showtime's response to this. Secondly, Gervonta Tank Davis is done. He's never going to be the pound-for-pound star that many thought he could be. He's never going to achieve a legacy that people are going to look back on in 20, 25, 30 years' time and say, wow. The only thing people will be saying in 30 years' time is what a waste of talent. How good could Gervonta Davis have been if he took his career seriously? If he took his duty as a man seriously? You know, because the guy, Tank Davis coming up, I was very excited about Tank Davis. Explosive, great hand speed, power, exciting style, good backstory. You know, Tank Davis had the ingredients to be a star. And I know there's going to be some smart ass who says, oh, he sells pay-per-views. I'm talking about a star, not selling a couple of 100,000 pay-per-views on Showtime. I'm talking about a crossover star. A fighter who can actually attract casuals to watch his fights. And not only that, you know, in the meantime as well, build up a better resume, build up a better legacy. Because when you look at Tank Davis, again, when he came on the scene, I was very excited about Tank Davis. When he fought Jose Pedraza, he won the title very young. He defended his title quite soon after. He actually came to the UK, which I liked. I know Liam Walsh wasn't a great fighter, but I liked the fact that Tank Davis travelled for that fight. And yeah, at that point in time, Tank Davis looked like a guy who put his past in his rear view, who was enjoying what he was doing, and he was going to make the most of it. He was going to make the most of his talents. But shortly after that, it started to go wrong. There were numerous times where he missed weight. There were the feminine back and forths between Floyd Mayweather. You know, real feminine stuff. Stuff that any self-respecting man should not put on social media. Then followed the legal trouble. And yeah, it's basically gone downhill since there. The first warning signs I saw with Tank Davis was when he fought, I think his name is Freddie Fonseca, on the undercard of Mayweather versus McGregor. And that performance was so off, it was almost like Tank Davis wasn't there that night. He looked horrible, he wasn't concentrating, and he looked totally uninterested. For me, that was the first red flag, and that may have been, I may be wrong, that may have been the first time Tank missed weight. I might be wrong on that. But that was the first red flag for me, and ever since then, Tank Davis hasn't impressed me with his outside the ring antics, his career progression, the level of competition in which he's fought. Quite frankly, I question the validity of some of his fights. Certain guys clearly not coming to win, etc. And I see a guy in Tank Davis who hasn't improved since that Pedraza win back in 2017. You tell me what he does better now. Because back then, to me, he looked far more dynamic, he looked sharper, he looked far more dynamic when it comes to when it came to putting his shots together, throwing combinations. Look at Tank now. He's a one shot at a time fighter. Uppercut, straight left, right hook, one shot at a time. And yes, it's working right now, but look at the guys who he's fighting. Look at his last fight, Rolly Romero, a guy whose skill set, quite frankly, is D-level at best. Rolly Romero can't fucking box. He couldn't box eggs. And yet this guy was taking rounds off Tank Davis. Do you think that version of Rolly Romero would have gone past a couple of rounds with Tank Davis from the Pedraza fight? You know, he's not got any better. I think Tank Davis has gotten worse since the Pedraza fight. Due to many reasons, obviously the low level of competition being one big reason, but also the way he lives his life outside the ring, you know, blowing up in weight, etc. I mean, really, the guy should be fighting at 130 still, in my opinion. Well, maybe I'm being harsh there, but regardless, he should have been fighting at 130 a lot longer than he did, and he should have never had to vacate titles because of missing weight. That's a reality. He's fought none of his contemporaries, such as Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, not even a Tevin Farmer. Who's he beat? Who's Tank beat? Nobody. Let's be real. Most of these fights don't even look real. The one guy who turned up to fight, he looked terrible. That was Isaac Cruz. What's Tank Davis done in the last, 5 years since Pedraza? What's he done? Nothing. For me, Tank Davis went from becoming one of the most interesting talents in boxing to becoming one of the most overrated fighters in boxing. And yeah, I can't see a way back for Tank. Yeah, he'll fight again. Yeah, he will. But it's going to be more of the same carefully selected matches until they're ready to cash this guy out. And on top of that, I also think this guy is getting major cold feet in regards to fighting Ryan Garcia. The more I think about that fight, the more I think Ryan Garcia not only beats him, but cleans him out. You see the narratives now coming from Team Tank. Oh, Ryan Garcia's on steroids. He's taking PEDs, etc, etc, etc. Again, to me that might be fear talking, that might be anxiety talking. I honestly think I think he's getting cold feet in relation to that Ryan Garcia fight. I really do. I mean, where have we heard that before? Oh, I'll fight you, but you have to take this drug test. Where have we heard that before? Again, NPCs are going to say, what's wrong with that? Listen, it should never be down to an individual fighter to what drug testing agency is used, as far as I'm concerned. No fighter should have a relationship with an anti-doping body. As far as that's a conflict of interest. You know, Floyd, he did that with USADA. We've seen Daenerys do it with VADA. And yeah, no boxing fans, or very few boxing fans or content creators actually call out the potential conflict of interest here. You know, how can a fighter have a relationship with an anti-doping body? You know? But yeah, I think Tank Davis is getting major cold feet over Ryan Garcia. And yeah, I'll say it right now. I think Tank Davis is about to duck Ryan Garcia. I don't think he'll take that fight, quite frankly. And yeah, listen, I'm past giving Tank Davis any more chances. I'm officially writing this guy off. This story for Tank Davis isn't going to end well. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. He can't keep his emotions in check. You know, he's emotionally incontinent. And this Tank Davis story, wherever it goes, it's not going to end well. As a fight fan, I don't see Tank Davis as a serious fighter. I don't see him as a guy in which I can rely on to deliver good fights. And yeah, I mean, I've got no hope for this guy going forwards. No hope whatsoever. There's going to be the odd, like, maybe there's going to be the odd sappy comment who says, well, Tank's had a really bad start. Well, so do a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, I've got to fix this shit myself. You know, there comes a time in life where you just have to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, because that's the main person in life you have to be honest with, is yourself. Not all of us have had great starts, and we've done silly things as teenagers, young adults. I know I certainly have. But again, at some point in time, you have to man the fuck up. You have to be honest with yourself and let those excuses go. You can't keep blaming your past and using your past as an excuse for your current misdemeanors. Because believe me, as a younger man, that was very comforting. You know, to excuse your bad behaviour on certain things that you went through in your past. But ultimately it's cowardly. It is cowardly. At some point you have to grow up. And it's interesting when we talk about Tank Davis because, and I think this is subconscious, but people still talk about Tank Davis like he's this teenage prospect guy in his early 20s coming up. I think that's very interesting that people refer to Tank Davis still as one of the bright young up-and-comers in the sport of boxing. What's he, nearly 28 now? He's not that guy anymore. He's a grown man. It's almost like Tank Davis has that Peter Pan syndrome. He never grew up. And I think that has seeped into the boxing fans' subconscious. You hear it by the way they describe him. They still describe him as a young kid. He's not anymore. He's approaching 30. This should be his prime. But he's still getting in trouble. He's getting worse as a fighter. He's not fighting anybody. And, yeah. What else can I say? I mean, I could sit here and cuss Tank out and do this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, there's nothing worse in life. There's nothing, well, there are sadder things, but it's never nice to see wasted talent. Tank Davis had the talent to put his past in his rear view, but quite frankly, he hasn't had the maturity, but more importantly, the honesty to do that. And the first person you should be honest with is yourself. But yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on Tank Davis. Again, I don't think this story ends well. Listen, I would like to be proved wrong, but I don't think I will be. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy, peace.